Oh, right. Hey, it's Lack of Lepers. Nice to see ya. Most hated man in SCP right here. We're hardest working individual in containment fiction. And this is a show where I'm going to shit talk people. Let's just be honest. That's what it is. Really nominally. Okay. What I'm going to do is watch some things, but these have been carefully selected. Basically, because I don't like the people in them. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding actually at all. But basically, there's more to this than just shit talking. Okay. And the reason why we're doing this is because basically we've got a genre of literary effort to take back here, and you're not going to be able to polite yourself through this. You can't assume that by not using particular weapons that are made available to you, that the other side, is not going to use those same weapons in reply. You should see what they're saying about you. So, with that pretense of propriety out of the window, we can continue. And before I get started, I would like to say this is on YouTube, obviously, but check the description for an alternative backup platform that'll be on BitChute, alternative media, and I don't care what your political affiliation is. Nobody wants to get canceled. So, on YouTube, basically anybody from SCP, certainly the people who I'll be talking about, will be first in line to push the flag button, and YouTube doesn't give a shit about you. It's not YouTube anymore. It's them tube. It's they tube. They don't care. So basically what's going to happen is, that's going to be clicked, flagged, and YouTube will take it down. No investigation, no actual due diligence of research to see if that is actually what's going on or not. They'll just do it. And so this is a way to get around that and not be dependent upon YouTube, which YouTube is asshole. So, so basically that's what's going to happen here. You got a bunch of people who think that SCP is the entirety of the genre, which is not true. The genre is called containment fiction. They don't like the term because it reminds them that there's more to the space than them. And basically you have a bunch of people who think that it should be held captive to the aesthetic tastes and choices and preferences of basically 15 to 19-year-old kids. That's fine. It has its place, certainly where the art form came from. Can't be too mad about that. But ultimately, I think it belongs elsewhere as well. Not that it needs to be really grappled and gripped away from that demographic. It's just that other ways of doing it exist and should. And as long as SCP thinks that they're monopolizing the genre, they're simply going to drive it further and further into the lowest common denominator between 15 and 19-year-olds, which is what we've seen over the last couple of years, with particularly with the new school of thought that's made itself apparent in authors like J. Dune, Rounderhouse, certainly their godfather, DJ Cactus. That's essentially Neo-Lol Foundation. There will be an article going up on the Confic Wiki about that. But anyways, so the purpose of this, yes, I'm going to be shit-talking people. Is it because I'm an asshole? Yes. But secondarily, it's also because this is the only effective way to actually grip the genre away from these people. Once again, if you basically try to go play by their rules, they will not play by their own rules. And so you're tactically at a deficit from the get-go on a tilted playing field. So you might as well laugh at them while this is happening. So basically what we're going to do today for the first installment in this, and by the way, in the spirit of not being dependent upon YouTube, fuck you, YouTube. YouTube is asshole. Only 1/3 of the content that's produced in this fashion will actually be released on YouTube. Okay, the rest of it will be on BitChute. So if you go to BitChute, you'll have extra videos to check out of this nature. And once we do get banned off YouTube, which I imagine, if all goes according to plan, should happen relatively quickly, then you can find me there, where people aren't going to ban you for offending other people, accidentally bruising someone's thin skin. Speaking of which, we have a podcast here that we're going to talk about, Simply Creative People, which actually I quite like. I like that podcast quite a lot. The first episode was really good. Jackrabbit, honey, close the shirt. You'll find a lot more mental health that way. You'll be around a lot of people who you're basically going to get the kind of fish that you want with your particular kind of bait. So be careful what you're putting on as your bait, because you're going to get the bites of that sort of fish. So anyway, having said that, let's adjust this, make sure I don't look too goofy. Yeah. Should have combed my beard. Take a note from the juggernaut. Anyways, so this podcast, Simply Creative People, the first episode was good. Jack Rabbit, obviously not someone I would put a lot of mental health stock into initially, and from the get-go, certainly sort of sputtered across the finish line there and did not make it to episode 2, which was just abysmal. It was certainly something that I think Gregory Carpin did the best that he could with, but given the circumstances, typically it's the ubiquitous SCP 101 episode, which happens on basically every podcast about the SCP, and it's just so tiring. It's like being asked, where do you get ideas from? It's just the most tiring, trite, worn down thing you could possibly do. And at some point, once again, the demographic not being 15 to 19-year-olds, we would expect a podcast or something to come along that doesn't hold your hand and basically slow down to a walking pace to get people who probably should know better by the time that they're clicking on this caught up to speed. So anyway, the third episode is, goddamn, it's 2 hours long. It should never be this long. The second episode was 45 minutes. That's about more like it. You shouldn't, if you can't fit it into a tight space, you should probably think about doing it over. You're doing it wrong. And then I say that, and then this video is going to be like 2 hours. So let's go. Ooh. So right away, there's clipping in the
hey there, SCP fans.
pan
My
in the
name
left and right
is
channels.
Gregory Carpin.
There's too much compression on that. Maybe your limiter is set too high.
Creatives, be they authors, artists,
not good.
or off-site content creators like YouTube and TikTok. We're focused on bridging the gap between various fans and serving as an introduction to different concepts and stories on the wiki.
Fair enough.
So, many welcomes to all, and let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started.
So, welcome to episode 3 of Simply Creative People. My name is Gregory Carpin. I think I've introduced myself twice now, so we're probably good on that.
Third time's a charm.
But I do have a guest host today. So, sir, if you want to introduce yourself.
Howdy.
Oh, he's not even from the South, I bet. Certainly not from Texas. The accent, what is that? Snobbery. It's the snobbery accent. It's the sort of accent that steams off a certain amount of elitism. You can basically choke through the headphones with that. Basically exactly how I thought Harry Blank would sound, who I'm no fan of. Certainly don't dislike him as much as Dr. Caldall. Shout out. But, I think the first introduction I got of this guy, besides the fact that he was like 40, which is a little strange. I'm a little, calling the kettle a certain color there, being almost 35 myself. But the difference is that I've separated myself from the demographic of SCP, which is 15 to 19-year-olds, and tried to make this into an effort that appeals to people of older ages, of advanced ages. Spike Brennan is really old for an SCP writer. He's one of the best. He's got a kid or two, I think. Now, that's the kind of containment fiction I want to read. I don't want to read Harry Blanks that basically gets buoyed by the aesthetic pleasure of 15 to 19-year-olds, which Harry Blank seems to use to pat himself on the back quite a lot. In fact, in this podcast, we'll be counting the number of self-pats on the back and also shills, which I'm starting to wonder if this podcast is just another instantiation in a series of, which is basically to say that podcasts are a lot of the time basically excuses for people to invite an audience to indulge in their idiosyncrasies, basically giving themselves permission to sniff their own farts. So I'm a little worried that's what we're going to come across here, especially with Harry Blank, who infamously, and I think in my official first introduction to him, was basically trying to conflate appropriate criticism of his SCP-6500, of course a lot of authors in that as well, with a personal attack. So basically he's an insurrectionist storming the castle of Rule Zero, trying to reduce it down to nothing, so that an attack against the article equates an attack on the author. And the reason for that is because Harry Blank seemingly, allegedly, has very, very thin skin for a 40-year-old who has a PhD. So basically what happened was a 17-year-old criticized his work, and Harry Blank decided to dogpile along with his other authors, so that's cool. Signs of maturity for sure right there. And then, the other introduction I got to Harry Blank was his non-disc record, with the first thing on that list on 05 is basically that he linked from his author page a bunch of not safe for work links. And once again, demographic. 15 to 19-year-olds clicking on your stuff, buddy. And you don't have a problem linking from your author page to some explicitly not safe for work images, according to 05. So, this guy, don't get a good vibe from him. There's certain people who you meet who right off the bat you just dislike, and not really anything you can explain. Certainly this guy has not missed since then. So, let's continue.
My name is Harry Blank.
Oh God, he sounds just like you think he would.
I am an author on the SCP Wiki. I am also sometimes known as Grigory Karpin.
It's gonna be hard to get through.
We'll cut that.
No, we won't.
No, but it's the
Be right
we'll
back.
cut that joke. You see, we have to do the.
Oh
we'll cut
yes,
that,
yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very good.
Jokes are funny when
We're
you
going to be
explain them,
discussing
when you have
tropes
to
and
point them
cliches
out.
as time goes on. So, yeah. Anyway, I joined the wiki in June of 2020, and I have since then written 1 or 2 or 107 pages on the SCP Wiki, including most notably, as Grigory mentioned about himself previously, SCP 6500.
That beautiful
Inevitable,
background in
along
there,
with
look at that.
Locke, Aethris, Ip, Placeholder, maybe,
Disgusting.
Dark Stuff, and am I forgetting somebody?
I'm sure you are.
hate
There's
that
too
list.
many
I don't think
authors
so.
in there. You ever heard the phrase "too many cooks in the kitchen"? If you have 7 or 8 authors, 7 or 8 cooks, each contributing just one ingredient, which I doubt it. The cook is going to want to put more than one ingredient in there. I guarantee it. But if you just had one ingredient per cook in a dish that had 7 cooks, would you get a cohesive dish? Probably not. You'd probably get a piece of crap on the plate, spilling over the edges of it, actually, because there's too much going on and has no idea what it is, no identity whatsoever, betrays any semblance of any reasonable form that it may have taken otherwise. There's just too many cooks in the kitchen. Certainly not chefs. That's what SCP-6500 is. And we see a bunch of people who basically believe that because they're good cooks individually, that that must mean, just logic of mathematics, that 7 cooks with their hands in one pot is even better. So, yikes.
It takes forever.
Yeah,
to
that's
get-
everybody. I know,
Yes.
I know.
And
Yeah,
various,
that's all of us.
various
Our
other
lovely
things.
crowd of people that wrote a novel for the wiki. Right.
Yeah, by the way, why take the potential of a new genre that can replace something like the novel and actually do that? Why not just use it to go back to what we were doing before? I don't know.
So, just to explain a little bit about that joke, because the only way jokes are funny is if you explain.
Right,
Or
exactly.
you point
This
them
is
out.
The core of all humor is explanation.
But there is a running joke that probably wouldn't have made it outside of Discord or our DMs back and forth. But we have known
Need
each
a beer
other
cone.
since pretty much when you joined, maybe like a month later.
Yeah, something like a month after, probably.
And we have so many things in common, and that it just became a joke.
They're cute
At
together.
first, just between us, and then became
they like each other.
widespread knowledge among other authors that we are the same person.
Yes.
Anybody else
So,
getting a little hot?
I mean, Ip even made a comment of it in that Dado victim article we did together.
Ooh.
We've been pretty good friends since you
Scandalous.
joined up. I would say you're like
Pretty
one
good
of my best
friends.
friends on the wiki.
Best
Yes,
friends.
well, the feeling is mutual. I think we've talked
Ooh.
almost every day for
Oof.
the past year and a half.
Goodness.
I know.
Best
like the only person I
friends.
talk to more than you is my girlfriend.
So we'll choose not to interrogate that too closely. We'll save that for a later episode.
Well, I talk to her more, but
These
it's,
guys don't even know.
It's not direct. It's not like orders of magnitude more. It is funny how often we
Yeah.
chat.
The content of the conversations are hopefully
They don't even know. They'll figure it
somewhat
out.
different.
yeah,
figure
you
it
and
out.
I are much
Don't
more
worry.
sexual than.
Oh, there you go. They already figured it out.
It's true. It's true.
Maybe it's like
It's masturbation. We're the same person.
Oh, masturbation. I was going to say that.
But so yeah,
Okay.
I think we
We're off to a
Awkward.
kick-ass
chatting.
start.
Really
yeah,
awkward.
this is good. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I think we started chatting because
So cringe.
I think I asked you for crit, or you volunteered for crit in one of the Discord channels.
Yeah, you were asking for crit on Hamartia. I can never remember the names of your.
Oh, right,
I can
yeah.
I can never remember the numbers of your.
Does anyone
articles,
actually
but yeah.
care
Man, numbers are
how
hard, especially
Harry
once
met
you
Sally?
have articles like we have. Like, just I have to look it up all the time.
Dozens and dozens of them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Harmatia, which is 5612, and you gave me some very good crit on that.
Yeah, it was
and
probably
then-
just line by line and absolutely nothing useful other than that.
That's very useful. And then I think, I kind of asked, what have you written? I think I talked a little bit with you or seen some of your stuff around.
how many shills are
And
how
you
many shills in are
linked
we
me
now?
Your 22,000 word epic.
I mean, it's got to be
23,000
a lot of
words
shills by
across
now.
two
It
tails.
really
yes.
does.
The
Make
significant
my back feel
others.
better.
Significant
My old
others.
man.
I was trying to
Not as old as Harry
oh,
Blank.
fuck. It's completely losing track. of
Stinky
that.
Harry
It's okay,
Blank.
I'll
Mold.
forget,
Harry
I'll forget
Stink.
your numbers. You can forget the titles, and between the two of us, we'll have one functioning brain.
And then I came back, I think,
cute.
like a day later.
cute.
And was like, wow, that was really good. And you were like,
They
what,
complete
you
each
read
other's
that?
sentences.
Yes, I was astonished anybody had read it at that point. It's done fairly well since then, but
Self-pat.
23,000
has.
words is kind of a gate.
Self-pat.
I'm going to take total credit, though, because I featured it
Oh.
on the front page.
Yes.
3.
Yes, you set the rocket up.
4.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's
It's true.
ridiculous, But
It's true. Those front page previews do help.
5.
they do. Of course they do. Yeah.
Wow. In the span of like 10
but I
seconds.
remember when we started, like, chatting regularly was when I think we had some ostensible reason to actually.
These guys don't
have
even
a
know.
Direct conversation about something
Isn't
like
it
actually
obvious?
wiki related, and then we started chatting about like
Poor
fucking
girlfriend.
DC superheroes and
Poor
Prey
Harry Blank.
2017, the game,
I don't know which
for
one.
like 8 hours. Like, I mean, we were just like it was like all of a sudden it was like
Sounds
3
like a first
a.m.,
date.
and it was like what?
Love at
You're the
first.
same person I am.
Yes, I never run out of things to say about Prey. I just stop talking eventually.
Well, then I guess you
Yeah.
run out of things to say.
It's a real good game.
It's a real good game.
Everyone should go play that game. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, just turn this off and go play Prey.
Okay.
You can listen to it and play.
All right,
Great.
start the fade out music.
Okay.
All right, good.
That was
All right,
easy.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you. all.
Okay. Wow, that wasn't that bad.
So
I thought it was
today
going
we're going to be
to.
talking about
It's only 5 minutes
the
in.
Global Cult Coalition, and we're going to go into
The
some
GOC,
general
the
stuff,
deep
like what I
dive
did
into the
last
CSEA.
episode, but,
These guys can
a
make
lot
a
more in depth
pun.
because we've got a whole bunch of articles.
Gotta
we
love
think
that.
give
These guys can
good
make a pun.
insight into the
They're good for that.
GOI.
Not bad
And
writers,
also,
just
I just want to preface
insufferable
it by
people.
saying, I was really fucking surprised. Don't know
Simply
how
crummy.
everyone, in the audience or offsite or onsite really feel about GOC, but I had always kind of felt like it was very masculine, Gears of War, bro, like military stuff. And although that stuff is there, there's also a lot of depth to it.
Wait, what? So did you just say that masculinity is not deep? You think that the military isn't deep? I would be interested to see if you say that if you were ever in a military situation. I think you'd probably find some real depth there, some real thinking going on when you basically have to outsmart the person or be killed. Never mind. This guy doesn't. He's too far gone.
But before we get into
Masculinity
that, I thought,
bad.
because
Masculinity
from the very
bad.
beginning we've talked.
He's got a girlfriend, too.
Having
I take it
little
back. Poor
sections
girlfriend.
about content creation and kind of an insight into writers, or if a video person is on, then talking about how they come up with ideas or
They're going to talk about how to
process.
come up with
And
ideas.
seeing as how between us we have something like 170 something articles, thought we could talk about just
It's like
the
listening
very
to someone's
basic
dream. It's never.
rundown
No one
of,
wants
like,
to hear
from
someone else's
idea
dream.
to
The recounting
completion.
of someone else's dream.
Obviously, we're not going to go about.
Just keep it to
where
yourself.
ideas
Write it
come
down in a
from. They
journal.
come out of my ass. I don't know. Who knows where ideas come from?
I was going to talk exclusively about where ideas came from, so you've undercut me.
Oh well, fuck it. Go for it. Do it.
No, I was lying.
Oh well, this is the basis of trust in this relationship, I guess.
Yes, I
Relationship.
lie unless it's funnier to tell the truth. That's the rule.
Well, I mean, this is the secret of podcasting. I think as long as it's
I think-
funnier,
I think-
who gives a shit.
I think
Yes,
he's
exactly. You don't
expecting
have to
that we
on
would be
topic
laughing
as long
by
as you
now.
Make the funny jokes. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
I
pretty
think
much.
this actually should end up being a good way to discuss things because you are fairly orderly in your thinking, and my brain is a mess. So we should be able to cover all the angles of how to write between the two of us.
There's only two ways to write,
that
guys.
It is very orderly for me.
Well, you
Me too.
present an orderly front.
These guys got it.
Thank you.
Corner
I
of the
do not.
market.
So
2 ways.
what Harry's talking about is because sometimes the only other person that sees something before I post it is you. But you have looked at everything I've posted since we met. I think
I
before
have.
posting.
Give me my heart.
Yeah.
I believe I have. I have upvoted, I think, every single thing that you have
Wow.
written, and I think I read almost all of them.
Yeah,
before
that's
they went
not
up, except
based
for the
on,
ones that
you
went up
know,
before I met you.
And I think pretty much I've done the same, except for a couple of things where
Sociological
you were, like,
factors.
coming down to the wire of your own internal timeline and just posted it, but whatever.
Yes, I am a creature of my own demons, my internal.
I don't think there's
timelines
any. I
will
don't
not
think
wait for
anybody's. I would
Fuck
upload
it,
every single
you know,
piece of their
I mean,
work.
Hey, whatever. I
Not
get
if
it.
it was
anything.
about
You
the
can get into
writing.
the
I'm
people
sure there's
who
gonna
are
be
my
something in there I
mental
don't
problems
like.
as time goes on. Here comes a loud noise. I need
Somebody
to ask you if
uploaded
I
every
gotta
piece of
make
my
it
work.
one.
I'd tell
Oh,
them.
yeah,
I'd ask
I've
them what the
got
fuck
coffee
is
on.
wrong
I
with them.
get you.
Yes,
I think that I was a
the
boring
slurping
motherfucker. I was
Korean
not doing a
people.
very good job. Basically writing the same
in terms
article
of
over and over
orderly,
again.
I will often start with an outline, and I will often, that's not where the idea comes.
Okay, so
up,
here's the
but I
part of the
will sort
podcast where we start to
have,
really
like,
kind of
just
have
a
to wonder whether or not this was,
two-sentence
once
summary at
again,
the top of a page,
an
and
excuse
then
for these
start
people to sort
putting,
of
like, the
indulge
list of things I
themselves.
wanna put. And the reason I started
Because
doing that is because once I
I'm
figured
not
out,
tuning into
for
this
me, the best
to
way for
find
me to
out
write was
how it is that
modular,
you
meaning
basically
I could
write
take
an
a scene
article. I
and
don't
move
care
it,
about that.
or, so if I
I don't even
conceptualize
necessarily think
the
you're that
scenes
great
as
of an author. I don't.
independent
So I mean,
things
you've assumed
as
quite a
best
lot
as
here. I don't really
possible,
care to know.
or different components of an SCP,
Same with Harry
then,
Blank, who I'm sure
it
will
would
be
be
next.
easy enough to rearrange them if they were in outline form first. I don't always stick to those outlines by any means. A lot of times I just start writing and just shit, especially with Victim, just comes out. I don't know. But yes,
And a
I
lot of
do
shit
often
references to
have an
writing.
outline.
Yeah, that's two shitting metaphors
See,
in the description of the creative process so far.
Interesting
for
how
those
the
of you
brain
keeping
works
track.
there.
Let's go for 4.
Well,
It's
do I
taken
have
in a
to use
humorous
yours, or
direction
am
here,
not
but I
even
think
scandalogical?
we can read into it another
I try
angle.
to bring a heightened tone of humor.
Tries.
That's right.
You know,
So you're
good
free- you have a-
good comedians get laughs, and then bad comedians get claps. So I'm gonna clap for Harry Blank.
Lines. We've established that.
Yeah. I'm very type A. Very type A.
I hadn't-
There's another butt reference, anal.
I mean, there's a reason
It's
I
there.
went to law school.
Yes.
But
And there's a reason that I did not.
oh, right. So on the podcast today, we have 2 people with doctorates.
Isn't that weird? We're
It is
two
weird.
people whose usernames do not include the word doctor, and we do indeed both have doctor.
Yeah, don't let anybody tell you that credentials after their name means anything. The amount of time you spend in school, the amount of money that you paid for an expensive piece of paper for someone to give you the permission to tell other people that you're smart is in no way a measure of intelligence. Who was it? I think it was Thomas Sowell said that the main benefit of having a degree from Harvard was that you didn't have to be impressed with anyone else with a Harvard degree ever again. I know some really, really dumb people with PhDs. Really, really dumb. Some of
That's
them are
right.
doctors,
I've got a Juris Doctorate, and you have a doctorate in
like
history.
medical doctors
That's
with PhDs.
That's correct.
The reason I described that was momentarily, or in fact still, I don't really remember what PH stands for.
It stands well. The
I
whole
got credentials
thing
behind my
stands
name.
for-
They're
and I
not a horn section accompanying you everywhere, testifying to the glory of your radiant intelligence. That's just not the way it works. You should never, ever, ever base your assumption of someone's smarts or lack thereof, for that matter, on what letters follow their name or precede it.
pronounce this correctly, but it's okay because fun thing about Latin is no one can. We just guess. It stands for
dead.
Philosophiae Doctor, Doctor of Philosophy.
That's right.
That's funny, seeing as how there are lots of people with PhDs that have not studied nor
Wow.
will never study philosophy.
Okay, so the reason why it's a doctorate of philosophy is because philosophy is an umbrella subject. You can do philosophy of anything. Philosophy of anything. So that's why it's a PhD for any subject. Wow.
Yeah, it's the ancient Latin meaning of deeper knowledge is philosophy. So everything
Oh,
that
there you
isn't
go.
medicine or do scientists get PhDs or do they get something? They think everything that isn't medicine is philosophy, and I guess medicine is fakery. We're talking about the ancient Latins, right? Ancient
Right,
Latin
yeah.
doctors didn't know their asses from their
It's like
Yeah,
the fifth
that's
ass
true.
reference.
They knew more than medieval doctors, but
yes. talking about medieval doctors in the context of SCP gets us too
His
close
voice.
to territory I'm not interested in, so let's move on.
Oh God, right.
We're just going to try to alienate everybody who came here to listen
Yeah,
to.
you're doing a pretty
popular
good
stuff.
job.
Oh no, I like some of the popular stuff.
Yes.
Harry Blank is one of the
hey,
least likable
currently,
people on the
Harry
SCP
and I
Wiki.
are
It's not
writing
even
a
close.
series entirely based on and expanding 093 because that is one of my favorite articles.
093 is easily one of the best articles on the site, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a series one.
That's what I mean. So people
Very
that think
long,
new
too.
authors, don't like series one. That's not entirely true.
No, it's
My
not.
favorite article is in Series 1, and it doesn't count because it was written in 2014 on the Spanish wiki and then ported over, but we'll get to that
Yeah,
sometime.
Harry Blank has an
real
interesting relationship
real
with the Spanish wiki.
Content creation, right?
Content
so,
creation.
After
so
accusing
I'm
them of
ordered-
homophobia
Some
because they
tangent
didn't want to raise the
creation.
same pride flags in the CSS that he did.
You know, like I said, when Jackie was here.
And then
the
he wrote an
organic
article that
conversations
basically
are
tried
not
to
based on
ingratiate
scripts
himself
and
into the
shit.
community
How does
by
it work for
including
you?
as many
Yeah,
author
generally
inserts
the
as
idea comes
possible.
into my head, and then I start somewhere in the middle, and then work slowly towards
Pretty,
the beginning, and then
cheap.
bounce back towards the end, and then
I don't
generally
care.
make my way closer to the
Nobody
beginning, then
cares.
right in the middle sometime, and then eventually it takes on the shape of a completed
The
thing,
shape, this poop
and
thing,
I
man.
rewrite it from scratch so that it's not insane, because my
Drop
brain
the-
is
drop the shit.
A series of twisty
It's a
little
pun.
passages, none of them alike, to paraphrase Zork.
So if somebody's brain is a series of twisted passages, shouldn't they not know that? And if they do know that, doesn't that indicate that their brain actually is less a series of twisted passages and more holistically understandable? I think it's almost like that frizzy-haired, crazy author sort of enigma trope that Mr. One eyebrow raised Harry Stank is going for here. It's not working for him.
So,
He might be stanky,
so
though.
if anyone's
I
paying
can see that
attention,
happening.
that means he writes them twice.
I do. I write almost everything twice, and that's actually a really valuable tool.
Oh, he's
No,
right.
It is, yeah.
Because the cool thing about, if you're a decent writer, and I don't claim to be, but
This is
if-
false
if you-
humility.
if you
Listen to
have
this
any
guy.
kind of
You've already
of-
patted yourself
of,
in the back like 20 times.
sense
Just drop
of
it.
words,
Just it would be better.
your
It'd be
brain
more
will
endearing if you
not
just went with
really
it.
allow you to write
It's two-step.
something that
I mean, come on, man.
sucks Twice.
You're not
if
fooling
paying
anybody.
attention. So if you have your first
Now, if
draft
you're an
beside
amazing
you and you
author,
start typing your second draft,
like me, I mean, but not.
the
I don't
second
really
draft
think
will
that. I'm just
probably
saying.
turn out better just by virtue of your brain going,
Fuck
that's
you.
not exactly how I would say that in a perfect world. So
no,
drafting
totally.
can be useful. It's just that most people hate doing it.
Yeah, well,
I
good news is you don't
do
really have
hate
to
doing
draft
it,
too much for the
but,
SCP Wiki these
I was
days.
taught a very different way of
We could
editing
run with
that is
the,
very effective for me, so
The
it works out. And this is
defecation
like
metaphor here a
law,
little
but it
bit.
works for fiction as well. Where
Just
I will
plop it
look
right
through
on.
my first pass and
Plop
when
it
I'm
right on
editing,
and make sure a
and
few
we'll look
flies
for
land on it
substantive
quickly and
things that
you're good.
need to go. You know, does this plot
Your
point
friendly
work?
band
Does
of
the
flies.
dialogue work, etc., etc. And then I start looking for if it all kind of coalesces.
They're still
and
talking
makes
about
sense.
themselves. It's 14 minutes
Then I
into the
worry about
podcast and they're talking
spelling
about
grammar,
themselves.
but
Still.
I'm not that great at that.
Yes, what he means is that I worry about his spelling and grammar.
I mean, I do worry, and I'm impressed with how few corrections I get back
You have
these days
improved.
compared to when I first started. But like writing
have.
for the law is a very different thing than writing fiction, and my brain is still very.
These people are
full
still
up on,
talking about themselves.
writing for the law, which is all about economy, and not as worried about alliteration or pacing or whatever.
So this is
Yes,
basically a
whereas writing
podcast where
for
they take the
humanities
opportunity
tends
to indulge
Be
themselves.
a
That's
little more
about it.
florid and a little bit more into
Like
the,
their own
the
writing. I
effect
mean,
of the prose. So it's
they're very,
somewhat
very
of a transferable
interested in
skill,
talking
but
about
you're right,
themselves.
You've actually gotten much better with the spelling and grammar.
That's okay, 'cause I'm
things
interested in
and
talking
really
about
it's
you
not
too.
that you make spelling and grammar errors. It's that you've just made typos in your haste to write it out. So
Well, also another weird thing about me is that roughly half the articles I've written, I have written on the phone.
yes, you've been doing that a lot lately.
there we go.
Oh, I mean, a lot, period. It's just very common for me to go outside and, oops, and smoke. Sorry. And,
It's okay.
but also just like sit, especially when it's nice outside, and sit at in a park and type on my phone, looking like a crazy person probably, just like intensely, typing on my iPhone. But, sometimes I don't, I'll pull out the note function so I can write down a note for myself so that when I'm back in front of my computer, I can write it out. And then I go, fuck it, I'll just write that conversation out now.
Yeah, see, I don't like doing that generally because I find the phone very claustrophobic. And the reason I say that is I
is.
type at 111 words per
Look at
minute
that.
on my keyboard.
Oh wow, what a
And
self
I do
pat.
not type that fast on my phone, and my brain tends to be racing along. and
Mr.
my fingers
115
can't keep up.
Guam
Although I've started
over
using
here.
that swipe typing technique.
Mr.
which is
Mr.
my
Guam
typing
115
tremendously.
PhD Guam.
Oh, sure.
It's quite liberating, and I have been.
It's
writing
liberating
on
to
my phone
type at
sometimes,
115
but generally
Guam.
I prefer to have the computer
Just
and
all the
its
time.
distractions in front of me so that I can get the
You know that's like the maximum he's ever done, right? Like you know that like one